20 people. I'm in DC, sitting in front of the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument. It's been a long weekend at the American Academy of Pediatrics annual conference. I needed to take some self-care and resting time for the last day because it was a bit overwhelming. You know, it's just hard when there's so much ignorance coming from people that are supposed to be, you know, some of the most curious, the most inquisitive, the most scientifically oriented, the people who, you know, supposedly want to look at the science, and yet they aren't even curious to hear from medical malpractice victims. Overall, my stress level wasn't too bad, but just there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of confusion, and there's only so much that, you know, we can do at a time. And a lot of great people came together, which helped greatly. You know, we wouldn't be able to do it if we weren't all unified to spread the truth and support each other. But I don't know, maybe it's just something about DC, but I don't like the energy here. It's very hectic. It's loud. It just has this negative energy, if I'm being honest. And I haven't felt very good here physically. Maybe it's because maybe I'm just tired from lugging around these big boobs now that the prosthetics that I've been wearing. Add a couple extra pounds. But it just feels, it just hurts to be censored. And right now on Twitter, for example, like, I'm trying to post about what's going on. The algorithm is majorly censoring me. Numerous people, followers and non-followers, are reporting that they can't see my posts. And it's just, it's frustrating. Like, you know, for me, this type of traveling, this type of integration into, I guess, the professional world, business, politics, it's just, you know, it's not really my favorite environment. You know, I'm an introvert. I'm more relaxed, just being in my own space, and yet I feel confident that I can bridge the gap intellectually and professionally. But it's just a weird sort of business. It's just a weird sort of work that we do. And there's obviously reasons that we're all doing it. I think we're all just horrified that, you know, we have to be the ones to do it, because so many people are, I don't know if they're just comfortable in their dissociations, or they don't have the energy to take on, you know, these sort of existential horrors, or if they just have lives that have other sources of meaning. Like, for me, I, you know, have this sense of emptiness because, you know, I've just had a void of meaning for a really long time, and a void of stability and grounding, and a void of relationships, and it's just a weird, I'm in a pensive mood. Pensive is the term I like to use when I'm, like, kind of sad, but not sad enough to be depressed, I guess. just melancholic. I'm melancholic. I mean, I feel fine. Like, it's a beautiful sunny day. I'm sitting here, I'm resting. I got really exciting things planned. Like, overall, things are going very well. It's just grief, I think, you know, and grief just follows you wherever you go. So the experiences that I'm having, these like political, intellectual discussions, these doctors that are running away when I try to talk to them, and just all the different lives that I briefly come into contact with, and then I have my own, you know, loneliness and different things. Yeah, it's just grief. And I think, especially when you, with CPTSD, a lot of trauma survivors, when things are supposed to be special, when there's supposed to be a holiday or a celebration or like a win or a success, that's when the grief is very noticeable, because you come into contact, you know, there's this magnetic sort of push that we feel when, you know, we're in awe. You know, like, I'm in awe. I'm in this historical place. It's beautiful fall weather. You know, I feel very loved. I feel very valued. You know, I've been invited here. I'm being taken care of, you know, by these various people, my allies and friends, and it's a really beautiful thing. And noticing beauty and truly being present and embodied, it will stir up the grief, because the grief it's not being suppressed, you know, sensorially or spiritually. Like, the spiritual, you know, the more vulnerable that you are as well, you know, like just sharing your stories, it opens you up. And, you know, I'm at a place where, you know, I'm not dissociating the vast majority of the time. I'm very, very present. And so every time I, you know, open it up a bit further, I can feel more pain. And that is the healing process. And, you know, I've been doing this for a few years now, so it's not unexpected, but it's just something that I'm aware of, that if I feel, basically, if my body feels fatigued, I know that it's because I'm healing. Like, I've been tired here. I've been very tired. And I've needed to rest, and it's because things are working, things are in process, they're draining out, and so you feel drained. But yeah, it's a very strange experience to be in these sort of busy, touristy, political, historical places, you know, doing these historical things, and yet just being a sad little girl, as well. And you know, I'm just describing what's going on. There's no solutions to it. I'm not seeking answers. You know, these are the answers, just that it's weird, and it's good. It's a good weird. It's a good weird. It's a very beautiful weird, and you know, just after these types of things, there needs to be a debriefing. So I'm sure I'll be writing some cathartic things, and you know, it's coinciding still with my personal burdens that I bear, my specific, you know, heartache, and my specific longings, and it makes me sad. Those longings and those losses. And that's another thing, that when you start filling the void, you know, with more people, more friends, more success, more confidence, more positive experience, more love, that pushes against the void. That pushes against the emptiness. The emptiness just wants to stay, you know, like objects want to stay in motion or they want to stay still. And so when you have a lot of motion and a lot of stillness, you know, it creates this discomforting, you know, this discomforting overwhelm. And I think that's why I'm fatigued and, you know, I cried last night, and probably I'll do it again today when I get home. And it's just crying because I'm alive and because I've survived, and I have gotten another start. I have gotten another chance to, I've created the chance, you know. I've done work to get to have another shot at meaning and love and all these things. And it's just a scary thing to just be in that, again, that I wouldn't even call it necessarily a transition, because some things are not in transition, they're in full swing, they're going. But it seems like other things are still in limbo, and I just wish I could have success in certain areas, and it's hard to be patient. It's hard to be patient because in those quiet moments of patience, those are the hardest, because that's when the grief is the loudest. So in these still pensive moments, that's when it's hardest to be hopeful of having the void, you know, the certain voids be filled. But more and more, I'll close with this, more and more I'm finding that, you know, I don't want to be that object that's still. I don't want to be stuck. Overall, I'm vibrating at a very high frequency now, which means that I have a lot more energy. I'm a lot less depressed. I have a lot more creativity that I'm in touch with. So now I'm able to move and actually take action, take the next right action. And it all feels synchronous. I think sometimes I just get a little bored. I don't know. I just have that emptiness, that void, and so it's hard for me to stay satisfied for any length of time. And it's very hard for me to, you know, get like excited. I feel I'm very, you know, sober, and melancholic is a good term. You know, it doesn't mean that it's bad all the time. It just is I think my energy is just heavier. It's like a bass, deeper and heavier and lower, and it's steady. So yeah, that's kind of my update. Late October 2023 in Washington, D.C. So thanks for listening. There'll be more updates to come. Stay groovy. Don't forget, it's a boogie.